You're listening to Emerson Whitner's NXT Report on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Emerson Whitner, and this is your NXT audio update for Wednesday, March 2, 2016. We are again on the road to TakeOver. TakeOver is just 1 month away. 31 days from today in Dallas, Texas, and I will be there live. So in between me marking out, come over and say hi. But until then, let's go through tonight's show, shall we? Things kicked off with the Vaudevillains returning to take on Hugo Knox and Tucker Knight. The Vaudevillains are evil again, but they still have their happy theme song, which make things back asswards. Knox and Knight got no entrance, and Knight actually looked like if Bull Dempsey wore short trunks and was in slightly better shape. Aiden and Simon tagged in and out a lot. At one point, Corey Graves commented that they used all 5 seconds of the 5 count to inflict as much punishment as possible. Problem with that is that in this particular sequence, Gotch punched Knox in the face, and he was out of the ring at the count of 3. So he wasn't really taking full advantage of that 5 seconds now, was he? Knight got the hot tag and looked pretty good for 30 seconds until he did the job to the Whirling Dervish. Dana Brooke and Emma cut a promo about Deonna Purrazzo of all people. Nothing much was said. Then Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy got a promo about Dash and Dawson attacking them last week, and they promised to win the tag team titles, while Dash and Dawson then cut a promo claiming that Enzo and Cass attacked them from behind, injuring them. It was then announced that at WWE Roadblock on March 12, Dash and Dawson, now known as the Revival, will defend their belts against Enzo and Big Cass live on the WWE Network on March 12. Former TNA knockout Santana Garrett was back next, going one-on-one with Emma. I'd like to say Emma looked really good in this match, and Santana, I bet Santana is a really nice person. However, she sells like someone who's never been in pain in her life. Honestly, the best selling she did in the entire match was when Emma collided with her on a drop kick. Things picked up when Santana was on offense, since she didn't look quite as bad then. A couple fans actually chanted for Santana, but she was laid out and forced to tap out to the Emma lock. Eva Marie and Nia Jax were backstage in Mr. Regal's office. Mr. Regal informed them that since they are big stars, that their next tag team match would be against Bayley and Asuka. They did not seem that happy about that. Due to the magic of television, Mr. Regal was magically transported into the middle of the ring, where he introduced the newest superstar signing, who is former TNA and ROH World Champion Austin Aries. The fans went nuts, the announcers went nuts, and Aries came out basking in the spotlight in the fandom until he was attacked by Baron Corbin of all people. Yeah. Corbin was on an Alex Riley level rage as he laid Aries out with the End of Days on the floor. Mr. Regal, standing in the ring, looked quite besmirched, while Corbin held up Aries' t-shirt and then threw it at the GM, screaming an eye for an eye, which is what he vowed to do when Mr. Regal refused to give him another number 1 contenders match after he was the only one that lost the triple threat match just a few weeks ago. Elias Sampson pinned Steve Cutler. Cutler has been on NXT now about a dozen times, and just now they finally mentioned that he's a former Marine. I mean, I'm sure he's always been a former Marine, just that it took them this long to finally mention that. And you think that'd be like the most basic of things they could say about the guy. This was actually Elias Sampson's best match since becoming the Drifter. He was aggressive, he looked good, and Cutler looked good taking all of his moves. The fans could tell as more than the usual nobody cared. Sampson won with a knee to the jaw and a spinning neck breaker. We then got a weird promo where the Bromans were happy that they lost to the Vaudevillains, because now that they're serious, now that they can show that they're the best team in not only NXT but all of WWE, yeah, losing to the Vaudevillains does that, I guess. Anyway, apparently they want a rematch with the former tag team champions. After they left the interview stage, though, Aiden and Simon walked up from behind and silently laughed as we cut away. Next week is, of course, the Sami Zayn Samoa Joe 2 out of 3 falls match. One of those two men are finally going to become the number one contender to the NXT title. It's taken almost 2 months, but we finally narrowed it down. We're finally going to have a match to determine the man who's going to face Finn Balor at NXT TakeOver. Will it be Sami Zayn? Will it be Samoa Joe? We'll find out next week. And then in the main event, if you thought last week's main event was bad, I'm looking at you, Dave Meltzer. This week's main event more than made up for it. Finn Balor, the current NXT champion for over 242 days, versus the longest reigning NXT champion, Neville. Neville was champion for 287 days, winning it at NXT Arrival, losing it at NXT TakeOver R Evolution, which is still the worst name ever, while Balor's been champion since the Beast in the East. And if he can make it to TakeOver in Dallas, he'll be at 273 days, and if he gets past that, he'll beat the record in 2 weeks. Can he do it, folks? Can he do it? In passing, Tom Phillips brought up the Bullet Club and the rumors that they're coming to NXT since they're Balor's friends. Corey Graves made fun of him for reading internet rumors, which is funny since what websites had major articles where they interviewed Finn Balor about it? Couldn't have been WWE.com, right? Anyway, this was a great match. Built slow, but the match changed completely when Balor backdropped Neville over the top rope and Neville slammed his head on the ring steps. I was honestly shocked Neville didn't get a concussion off that one. Anyway, and this is when it became the best of both men. Neville hit his acai moonsault to the floor, while Finn hit his Pele kick, which is kind of funny now that there are multiple people in WWE using the Pele after many, 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 many years of nobody using it. Neville went for the Red Arrow, but Finn sprung to his feet, kicked him in the side of the head. Neville fell to the floor, and then Finn flew over the top to the outside with a dive, taking out Neville. Neville stopped Finn from coming off the top of the coup de grace. Neville climbed up to the top rope and hit a standing hurricanrana off of the top rope, sending Balor flying all the way across the ring. But he couldn't get the Red Arrow, as when he went for it, Finn moved. Neville rolled out of the way. Balor hit his sling blade. Neville avoided the running drop kick once, got hit with it the second time, and then got hit with the Bloody Sunday DDT. And Finn Balor, ladies and gentlemen, the NXT champion, is your winner. Easy 4 stars, maybe even more. A magnificent way to end the NXT era here at CFE. And the show didn't end there. No, sir. No, indeed. It ended with Rich Brennan interviewing Sami Zayn, and I swear to you, He referred to Sami Zayn's opponent next week as Samoa Joe. They talked about their match, which is next week. Joe said Zayn should be grateful since Joe saved his career back at TakeOver in May when Kevin Owens was trying to end it. Zayn said people like Sami made NXT, and that allowed Joe to cakewalk into NXT, but the cakewalk ends here. So that does it for this week. Who is going to be the new number one contender to the NXT Championship? I feel like I've said that many times before, but this time I mean it. Next week, someone's going to be the number one contender. Is it Sami Zayn? Is it Samoa Joe? We'll find out in 7 days.
You're listening to Emerson Whitner's NXT Report on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.